The year is 2001. You're hanging out in your best friend's basement, playing rounds of Super Smash Bros. Melee between games of Magic the Gathering, when you notice a magazine sitting on the table. It's the February issue of White Dwarf. You've always wanted to check out that Warhammer thing, but you've never really seen an army you felt compelled to collect and play. That is until today. Welcome to the 20th anniversary unboxing and retrospective for the February 2000 range of Tyranids. While Tyranids did exist before 2001, it was this release that would cement the look and feel of these iconic creatures, and made them a staple of Warhammer fiction for years to come. The Tyranids are a species of aliens, defined by three core concepts. Number 1, the hive. Tyranids are not individuals. Rather, each Tyranid bioform is like a single cell in the body of a massive, unknowable alien consciousness that knows nothing but. Number 2, devour. All the Tyranid hive mind cares about is to consume. They arrive on a planet, strip it dry, consuming everything that's edible and incorporating it into their. Number 3, adapt. The Tyranid hives are always adapting, always evolving at a rapid pace. Found some Tyranids on a water world? Don't be surprised if they've already developed fins and the ability to breathe underwater. Everything about the Tyranids is a genetically engineered death machine designed to adapt as quickly as possible in order to kill and eat you. Everything from their ships to their structures, even their guns, are living organisms, all working in symbiotic concert with the living, beating heart of the great Devourer's will. Upon its initial release, all you needed to play Tyranids was these two basic kits and the Codex, a pretty low barrier to entry by modern standards. When you open them up, you get 8 Termagants, 8 Hormagaunts, and 3 Warriors, which fulfills your 2 basic troop options plus an HQ unit, which is the minimum to play the game. When redesigning the Tyranids for 3rd edition, artist Jess Goodwin had a few principles in mind. Number 1, he wanted them to all look consistent, like a swarm of rapidly evolving creatures that all shared relationships to one another. Like, just by looking at them, you could see how one might have evolved from the other. From now on, all Tyranids would share certain features of their anatomy, such as all Tyranids having 6 limbs, a tail, and 5 plates on their head. And although in some members of the hive these features might be atrophied or exaggerated, they are still consistent across the line. He also mentions that they wanted to show some members of the species incorporate the genetic material of other spacefaring species that they might have consumed, such as the Zoanthrope incorporating Eldar genetic material, and the Biovore incorporating Orc genetic material. Upon opening these kits, I was greeted by the smell of fresh plastic, not just from this decade, but from one far before, and I was reminded of the toys of my childhood. There's just something very special about these 2 kits. The Gaunts kit, which is the basic troop of the Tyranid army, comes with several copies of 3 different sprues. There are 2 copies of the Melee troop, or Hormagaunt sprue, and 2 copies of the Range troop, or Termagant sprue, as well as 3 copies of the Mutation sprue, which is full of optional weapons, parts, and accessories that you can use to mutate your forces into your own custom brood. I think it really says a lot that almost half the sprues in this kit are dedicated to just giving you more options. And one of the cool things about these optional parts is that they're not just useful for the specific units in this box, but for any unit in the Tyranid army. It gives the whole army a real modular toy-like feel. Everything is built using a ball and socket system, so that almost any head, arm, or other appendage from this kit can fit onto the torso of any other kit in this entire range. And because you're getting almost twice the parts you need in each of these kits, so that as you continue to collect your own hive fleet, you can start to make them more and more custom as you go. You can just feel the designers of these kits egging you on, urging you not just to build these kits to match the box art, but instead to evolve your own custom swarm of monsters with it. The Tyranid Warriors kit is similar, containing the same basic system. It comes with only 4 sprues, 1 for each warrior, and yet another different mutation sprue for larger creatures. And again, everything is interchangeable between both of these kits and all of the kits in the range. Overall, I found both of these plastic kits to be a joy to build. The Warriors had more mold lines than I necessarily would have liked, but for a model kit that's over 20 years old at this point, I can't really complain. The ball and socket system that these are built with gives you lots of options, not just with the different sculpts, but with posability, so that no two units are exactly the same, and overall, they all go together quite easily. One small gripe that I have, and it's both an advantage and a disadvantage, is the way the customization options for the units interact with the rules in the Codex. For the Tyranid Warriors, it's quite simple. You pick the weapon options and you're done. But for the basic troops, it's a little bit more complicated. The rules for how it works are spread out over 2 different sections in the book, and there's something about how only 1 in 8 troops can have a mutation or something, or you can have the whole unit with the same mutation if you build your own custom hive fleet rules. Honestly, for this video, I just gave up on learning all those rules and built all the basic troops in their stock configuration. Anyway, if you're familiar with these rules and you want to explain them to me, feel free to do so down in the comments. One of the other cool things about these kits is they all come with these little Ripper Tyranids to create an extra unit called Ripper Swarms. I really like the idea of this extra cute little unit that comes with all of your kits, and you can gradually collect and accumulate a swarm of them in different poses as kind of like little pets for your army. Looking at this from a historical standpoint, we actually see this is the start of a trend for Xenos armies, having little pets that come with the basic troops. The Tau that came out later in 2001 right after this have their little drones that come with the kits, and the Necrons in 2002 right after that had Scarab Swarms, which function in a similar way, not having their own dedicated kits, but instead having a few included as a sort of bonus with each of the basic plastic kits. So around this time period, while the basic troops would have their own dedicated plastic kits, the specialist units for many armies would be cast in pewter to save on costs. In February of 2001, we only had a single metal model, the Zoanthrope, released for the Tyranids range, although many more would follow in March and April. I found the Zoanthrope to be more or less easy to assemble. It's just 3 parts with relatively few mold lines. For more on how I assembled this, you can check out my video on how I assemble metal models. I pretty much just did what I did in that video. The finished model is extremely cute. I like it quite a lot. It might actually be my favorite of the whole line. And with that concludes the entire model release for the complete Tyranids range for February of 2001. However, in my hubris, I also bought 2 more metal Tyranids, both of which wouldn't be released until March of 2001. But they were so cheap, I just couldn't resist, so I bought them anyway. These final 2 models are called Tyranid Raveners, which are cool in concept, but a real pain to put together in practice. They have a lot of metal parts, almost all of which have to be pinned, and overall, I just found the process so infuriating that I only ended up assembling one of these for this video. I'll probably eventually put the other one together later. You'll also notice that the bottom set of gun arms for this Ravener, I've just replaced with plastic ones. I couldn't see any difference between the metal ones that come with the kit and the plastic ones that come with the Gaunts kit. I think it's actually the exact same sculpt. So I just used the plastic arms here because it was way easier to assemble and didn't require any pinning. Overall, I am a huge fan of this line of figures. I honestly never knew I had any interest in Tyranids, but the more I read about the 2001 release, the more I came to appreciate their appeal. They have a cuteness factor to them that the modern Tyranids I feel really lack. I find a lot of the newer Tyranids to be a little bit too grotesque for my liking, where a lot of these older kits have a real Pokemon style appeal that really hits me right in the heart. And when you think about it, these kits actually would have been designed right at the height of what I call the collect evolve monster boom, started by Pokemania in 1998. So this sort of collectible, evolvable monster appeal totally makes sense for these kits. There's even an evolution chart in the Tyranids Codex that looks like it's right out of a Digimon strategy guide. It's always fun to remember that products and media don't exist in a vacuum. They're the result of all the other pop culture detritus of their time, and that's part of why I find it so interesting to do these 20th anniversary reviews. We're not just reviewing this one product, we're kind of taking a retrospective of what things were like at that time. Before we go, I'd like to extend a huge thank you to all of our generous supporters over on Patreon. Thank you so much. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your support. This week, I'd like to especially thank Eldritch Bylast, Pat Sherwood, and Guy Trott. If you'd like to get access to a moderate amount of bonus content, have your name in the credits, or vote on video topics that are coming up, you can go and do so at patreon.com/DanaHowl. As always, remember to like, comment, subscribe, evolve into your most efficient form in order to serve the hive mind, and I'll see you in the next video. The year is 2021. You're self-isolated and you're thinking about Tyranids. You lost touch over a decade ago, but you sometimes wonder what your childhood best friends are up to. You wonder if they still collect magic cards. Do they still play Super Smash Bros? And did they ever get that Tyranid army that they always wanted?